This was a really freaking hard decision. Like, I went back and forth. I talked to multiple people. I questioned my decision. Yes, Village, you read the title of this video correctly. I've decided to let my foster care license expire, and I'm finally ready to talk about it. This was a decision that I did not take lightly at all. And while every part of me knew that this was the right decision for me, for my children, for the potential kids and families that I would be in contact with, it still was so difficult on many, many levels. And in this video, I want to talk about why this decision matters, why it's important to talk about, and also why this decision is not forever. I'll also mention that so many people like to talk about and give advice. Like, I got this advice so much, like, oh, just keep your license open. It's easier to go through your recertification to keep it open than to start all over. And I want to give you my perspective on that because it was part of my decision, and clearly here I am. And so I'm first going to talk about my circumstances and the big transition and changes in my life that ultimately were the driving factor behind this decision. Yes, I got divorced. I've talked about this, and I did have a placement. I had a teen in my home when the separation occurred, but divorce is a huge life change. Even if it is just two people, that's still a big change and a lot of things to navigate for both individuals. Add into the mix having children in the home, children who are permanently in the home. That's a huge transition for them. And then add on top of that, you're caring for a child who already has experienced crisis and trauma in being removed from family and from what they know. And now they're in a home that is experiencing that. And so it's a lot to navigate. It really, really is. It also is very unexpected and unplanned in a lot of circumstance, like in a lot of situations. I don't know anybody who gets married expecting to get divorced. I think that is a very, very small percentage. It definitely was a surprise, and it was something that I was just trying to navigate through with as much grace as possible. And then, of course, being there for Darcy and Sawyer, my two young kids. And while you can foster, you can be a foster parent as a single individual, being a foster parent takes a lot of time and energy. It just does. Logistics, transportation, calls, emails, being emotionally available. And so it was really clear that I needed some time. So I did give myself a break after that teen aged out. She did, like I said, come back for a short amount of time. It was just complicated, and I had a lot of ambiguous grief with that placement on top of navigating a separation and divorce and trying to keep it all together. And to be honest, I did neglect myself for a while. I did the best that I could, and I'm really proud of how I did navigate it. So I knew I was going to take a break after that placement. It started to, time continued, and while from a resource standpoint, I felt like I had the time. I still, Darcy and Sawyer started to require a lot of support. The transitions hit them a little bit later. And so my main focus was just making sure that I was there for them. Really, my intention was just let me meet my kids where they are and do the best that I can with the resources that I have. And I will say, going through all the experiences as a foster parent and the training and the support that I have received through that journey, it did set me up for being able to navigate this for myself and for my kids. I've also done a lot of personal development work since 2020. And as I was coming up to that kind of window of time where your caseworker is sending you emails and you get the packets in the mail saying, hey, time to recertify, I'm looking at all of the forms and requirements and the hours of training, the, getting health records, fire safety check, like the list goes on. I actually did like a side-by-side because in the state of Ohio, the requirements for recertification supposedly changed to make it easier and less paperwork. However, when I looked side by side of what I would need to complete in a few months' time to maintain my license, and then also compare that to if I were to start over from the very beginning and do a full home study, do the preliminary training, for me, it wasn't a huge time difference. It really wasn't. Yes, there's a lot more training hours, but I don't mind the training. And with my experience of having my license and getting a violation when I didn't even have a child with me. Because if you have your foster care license, whether you have kids or not, you have to abide by all of the rules. And so I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to maintain that level of I didn't want to have someone have that oversight over me in a time where, this is something that if I'm not in a place to actively say yes to a child coming into my home, then I get to put that focus and energy and that time somewhere else with myself and with my kids. And like I said, this was a really freaking hard decision. Like, I went back and forth. I talked to multiple people. I questioned my decision, and I got a lot of coaching on like, what do I truly feel like in my body? And there's this practice of like, does it feel like tension or does it feel like an openness? And when I began to imagine allowing my foster care license to expire, and then, knowing that at a future time, I could always pick it back up, that allowed me to breathe. And I'll share that for me, I knew that I was going to be in support or contribution in another way. And that's part of why I wanted to make this video, because I'm not an active licensed foster parent, I still am a foster parent to many. I still am that support. I am still a mentor and a coach to a lot of existing foster parents. And if you want to contact me, like I'm just a normal person. And so if you would like to contact me, whether it's in the comments below or reach out on another platform, I'm very open to having conversations when I have the time. I'm not trying to gatekeep information. And I was really clear that if I was not going to be an active foster parent, that I was going to do something. And so that is why I did decide to pursue being a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate. And I'm actually about to start the training. So I'm going to take you guys along that journey of what that process looks like. You have an application, a training, you get sworn in, and then what does the case process look like? And what is the day-to-day? And so that was my way of saying, I can't give at this capacity, but what can I do? I'm also still involved in like a nonprofit in the state. I'm in a focus group that talks about families and foster care and ways to improve. And so I'm still very active in this world. It's just that title that was taken. And honestly, that was a huge part of the difficulty in this decision, because like many things, being a foster parent is an identity. And I felt like that was being taken away by making this decision. And I've come to terms with like, it really hasn't. That was really difficult to come to terms with. And I'd be lying if I said that, having the Be the Village platform didn't weigh into that, because I felt guilt. I felt a level of inauthenticity of how can I speak about this if I'm not actively a foster parent? And so yes, the content is going to change. What I share is going to change, but it still is focused in this world. And there's a word that I want to talk about around this decision, and it's martyrdom in foster care. And it's not a good look. And I'm guilty of it. Of course, I'm human. I'm guilty of it. I learn, I grow. I do better when I know better. And with foster care, there are times when someone will want to help so bad that they are putting themselves last, and they're actually doing more harm than good, not even just to themselves, to those around them, to the children who are coming into their homes, to the families, the primary families of those children, to their friends and family. It's not fun. And so making this choice, again, I knew it was the right choice for me, and I knew it wasn't going to be a no forever. I definitely recognized that part of that guilt of making this choice was feeling bad. I felt like I needed to do more, but at what expense? And fostering isn't about being a hero or a savior. I know that word gets thrown around too. It is about showing up fully when you are able to give stability and love. So if you're watching this and any of this resonates with you, please just know it is okay to take a step back. It is okay to rest. There's a quote that I found a little while ago. You can't save everybody. And if you don't save yourself, you can't save anyone. And so I definitely was on that verge of pouring from an empty cup. Such an overdone like metaphor, but like truly, like I was on fumes, and it was a wake up call for me. And also I have to mention, like, fostering isn't just about filling homes. Oh, I have space, I have a bed, like bring a kid by. No, that's not what it's about. It's about what's best for the kids in the primary families. And while my journey is going to move into that court-appointed special advocate path, and that is how I'm going to give back until I'm in a space to come back and go through the training and become a foster parent again, there are so many other ways to give back and be in contribution. You can get a smaller license in a lot of states, check with your agencies and counties, but you can go through a few less checks and training and all of that, and you can provide respite care for those foster parents who might need a break, who might need a chance to breathe. You can donate. You can donate resources. I know I was welcomed by so many by supporting with resources from people who, weren't in a place to foster, but they wanted to give something. And so not just giving to foster parents, oh my gosh, controversial take, why not actually give support and resources to primary families before their children are removed, or while they're on their way to reunification? Can you be a parent mentor? Can you be like a professional mentor? Find ways with counties and agencies in your area, say, hey, here's my skill sets. Is there anything that I can do to help? And then there's the nonprofits. I would encourage you to see what are the nonprofits in your area, and also maybe advocate to expand their services to the primary families. I see it so much that there's a lot of support that's given to foster families because we're looked at as the ones who are the hero. Then we're not really putting energy or the same amount of energy into supporting the families when they are like up against it. So find out nonprofits that are in this world, but also see how you can influence and expand so that it can do more for the primary families, not just foster families. And I just want to say that you don't have to be a foster parent forever to make a difference. I'm learning that the seasons of our lives are going to change, and we're not going to anticipate what's next. But regardless, your heart for this work is still going to remain the same. Your passion and love and wanting to make a difference is not going to change. So I just invite you to look at things a little bit differently and give yourself grace and see where you can be in support. So rest assured, I'm not going anywhere. We're still going to be talking about foster care, child welfare, and parenting, and whatever else you want to hear about. And I'm excited to take you guys on the journey of becoming a CASA. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.